off. We are here, we promise being candid, we promise being honest and challenging. I will try funny, I'm not very good at it, he is. But yeah, please, anything on your mind, ask. This is, we speak enough that we can put on like a recorder and keep going on. That's not the idea. The idea is to be helpful to you, or at least challenging and fun.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kushagra, and it is indeed my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to all of you to our digital transformation fireside chat in TRIST 2022. TRIST is North India's largest science, technology, and management festival, presented by Graphite GTC, a no-code development platform, and organized by the student community of IIT Delhi. It aims to bring together the world's leading scientific minds, leaders, and influential thinkers, and connect them to the academic community across India. This year's theme, A Voyage to the Zenith, focuses on capturing the advancements in business, academia, technological, and socio-economic domains that the world has undergone in the past few years in order to prepare young minds for the times to come. The title sponsor of TRIST 2022 is Graphite GTC, a no-code development platform that allows users to build entire enterprise class web applications visually without ever writing a line of code. The visual tools provided within the platform allow business users and subject matter experts to actively participate in the software development process, resulting in reduced risk and better communication. To know more about Graphite, you can visit the Graphite booth at the lecture hall complex. In today's digital transformation talk, the speakers will be discussing the practical implementation of digital transformation in the real business world. For the panel discussion, we are fortunate to have with us two very esteemed guests, Mr. Nitin Sethi, CDO, that is the Chief Digital Officer of Adani Group, who will describe how a huge conglomerate inculcated digitization into every branch of their business. He'll be joined by Mr. Ankur Puri, who is currently a partner in McKinsey. Before we begin with our session, I would take this opportunity to welcome our illustrious guests. Mr. Nitin Sethi is currently the Senior Vice President and CDO of Consumer Businesses at Adani Group and has 21 years of work experience in digital transformation, product design, and user experience. He has built robust monetizable products for the biggest internet companies in India and is an expert in crafting lovable experiences for the consumers through simple and usable products. He can be defined as a design thinker with a diversified portfolio of portals which includes e-commerce, job career recruitment, real estate, education, matrimony, shopping, travel, email, telecom, finance, classifieds, astrology, e-learning, multimedia, web design, social media, and so much more. Mr. Sethi is an alumnus of premier education institutes like the Wharton School, Harvard Business School, and IIT Bombay. In the past, he has also been associated with organizations such as Indigo, Yatra.com, Bharti Airtel, Quicker, among others. In his words, I am looking forward to enable the digital transformation, customer-centric design thinking, customer empathy, technology roadmap, and unified thinking of the group's consumer businesses. Adding value and customer delight to our several 100 million end consumers that we serve is the topmost priority. We are honored to have you with us, sir. Our second guest is Mr. Ankur Puri. He is an alumnus of IIT Delhi and later on did his MBA from the prestigious Harvard Business School and has been a part of McKinsey since 2004. He's an integral part of the global leadership of McKinsey's Analytics Academy. In the course of his decade-long tenure with the firm, Mr. Ankur has advised clients on the application of advanced analytics to basic materials and commodity markets, power generation, manufacturing, and service operations across sectors. He has also helped public sector institutions develop AI capabilities at scale. Mr. Ankur has worked with several public and private organizations in India, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia across the manufacturing, energy, consumer, retail, healthcare services, automotive, and chemical sectors. Prior to joining McKinsey, he was a part of the launch teams at Public Health Foundations of India, a public-private partnership, and Sana, a technology startup based at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. We are delighted to have you with us, sir. Now, without taking more time, we'll be beginning with the session. There's also going to be an audience question and answer round towards the end of the discussion. And I would like to insist everyone to ask whatever they have in mind without any hesitation. So with that, I would like to hand over the stage to our esteemed guest. Can we have a huge round of applause for them once again?
Good morning, guys. Nitin Sethi, he's done more than what I deserve in terms of introduction. I'll quickly take you through what I achieved and how lucky and fortunate I am. So if you look at Indian ecosystem and global brands, and I'll be specific on the digital transformation. I was part of teams who have created lovable brands in the consumer space. Started from Bharti Airtel to India's biggest media house like India Times. And I'm talking about year 2000 where there is hardly any digital transformation. Some of the terms were not even there. So at that time, it was mainly about the market monopoly. And it was very less about the customer centricity because only one or two players, hardly any choice. And now if you look at it, my last assignment was Indigo prior to Adani Group. And I've seen very challenging times as COVID. And Indigo became the only airline in the world to gain 10% market share in the COVID times. Only airline in the world. We serve close to 50% India, so every second consumer actually fly on Indigo. And to lead transformation for brands like that, it gave me a lot of learning, especially on the things what not to do rather than what to do. I've also got lucky to be part of organization which created history. So Rediff.com, which became the first internet company from India to listed on NASDAQ. Yatra, which again first travel platform to got listed on NASDAQ. And some of the unicorns. And now the largest conglomerate. Why it happened and how it happened is an interesting story. I come from startup ecosystem because Naukri.com, when I joined, it was a startup. 99 acres, Jeevan Sathi Shiksha, when that got created, it got created by these bare hands. So what is the core message I would like to give you? And some of the students, we were talking in the morning. And they asked that, I've asked them how many are ready to start on their own and how many of them were actually going into corporate or the present ecosystem to, join some of the organization. And not single one of them said that they will go get into entrepreneurship. You guys are coming from IIT. If you guys don't do it, I don't know who will. Right? And if you look at India, India still got a lot of issues, whether it's education, health tech, agri-tech, last mile of entertainment and transportation. There is hardly anything which has been done for Bharat. India, most of startups and unicorns and big companies are focused on. But IIT should, actually give you that platform and you have everything extended. If you will not do it, I don't know who will come and, take this charge. And digital transformation can't only happen on the superficial layer because it's a last man standing game. So if you look at food tech, you got many players fighting for the same pie. If you have travel, everybody's focused there. If you even see the entertainment, we have so many players. So India is not only about Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai. India is about the tier 2, tier 3 market. 80% of Indians live there. 60% of millennials come from that market. So that is the market which requires the digitization. That is the market which requires the personalization. That is the market which requires more customer empathy. I think the time which is there currently, the next generation, the next 10 decade, 10 years, is actually about India winning the global world. And you guys need to come forward and do it. Now, there is one other aspect which we were discussing is about, what skills and the, how hands-on coding skills you will be having and should be having to achieve all that. So, in my view, it's less about the code and the technical aspect. It's more about understanding the customer market need and that persona you are solving for. And after he enlightened you, I'll add my bit. But I'm not here to give you any gyan because you guys are fabulous. You know everything on bookish side. I can't tell you anything. Let's make the conversation more conversational and two-side. And you can ask me anything if it's not going on social media. And I'm here to learn. And what I still say, that become a job creator and not seeker in this market, where you have ample angel investors, ample VCs and mentors who are ready to give you that platform, right? So don't be a job seeker.
I can tell you that comes from his heart. It's not tailored because I was in the same room, and it's very authentic. Thank you. In my case, Kushagra, right? I think Kushagra overplayed what I have done. So we will put that aside. It is not important. It will get into fact correction now. But I would like to do the following. I'm going to invite at least 5 people from you. Preferably voluntarily, otherwise I will volunteer 5 people randomly. I want to know why you are here, what would you like to hear, and it could be that you want to learn more about job opportunities. It's fine, we'll also answer that. But really, things that you wish someone could answer, things that hold you back, things that excite you, would be great. So this one's taped up nicely so no one carries this mic away, but I'm sure we can also hear you. There's another mic here. So would love to hear at least 5 people say why you're here, what would you like to hear about, what would you like to talk about, and maybe we'll start by practicing Nitin's point about customer centricity.
It's a great start.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. So, as I am a student of first year undergraduate, I have arrived in the campus few months ago. As sir has said that be a job creator, not seeker, and I have came here when I was writing my JEE exam, I had my thoughts like that I will provide jobs to everyone to tier 2, tier 3 cities. Same views I have in my JEE time. But as I arrived, I didn't finding a pathway that how do I approach that? What is the pathway of going in that way? It was I have to manage my academics also and this also. So what I have thought when I arrived here and after 2 or 3 months, I am not on the right path or way. So I want to know what is the pathway of going into that way. What are the skills that we need to learn? So that I want to.
Yeah.
Anybody?
I'm just going to make notes because my memory is worse than for Goldfish.
Yeah.
And for Goldfish, memory is not that bad, but mine is very bad.
Yeah, hello guys, hello sir. So I'm Abhivir, a first year student. So I am here because it was titled Digital Transformation, and I have taken biotechnology, biochemical engineering here at IIT, and I really want to, and I love India, and I want to build the next 20, 30, 40 years of digital transformation in biology. But I am not seeing that in the course that's provided here at IIT and the vision even for the biotechnology space that you must know, you would know, I mean, what is there for biotechnology and the digital biology space. But I am not seeing that here, and I wanted to seek some answers from you.
We have one hand in the front. There's a question here, there's a question in the center.
Hello everyone. Good morning, sir. Sir, I'm Pankaj Sharma and I'm currently a second year undergrad student here. Sir, I want to ask, like everyone continuously hearing the words blockchain, cryptos, and all these. So I want to know, is India ready for all these changes? And as a student, does we think we have to start working on those things currently now only, leaving our cats and all these stuffs aside? So yeah, I want to know what is the right time and what is the right way to approach all these things. Thank you.
By the way, can we just get to first name basis? I know I'm much older than most of you, but still don't want to be reminded first thing on Sunday morning. So I'm Ankur, Nitin.
I'm Nitin, 20 twice, so same age.
Say right.
There was a hand I thought in the center.
I just wanted to know that how to fill the gap between student life and where are you at this stage? So how does basically accelerate our thing? Because there are a billion jobs which we aspire for, but we cannot be providing jobs to everybody. So I do something like I have provided around 500 jobs to a couple of people. I'm from Army. And today I am here to learn from you all that what can we do in this space so that we accelerate create million jobs, and all of us sitting here should create at least 1,000 jobs for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, so hello sir, I'm in my final year. So yeah,
That's okay. Please
yeah,
sit.
sure.
And Ankur and Nitin.
So yeah, I'll be joining a job next month. So I have always been excited for entrepreneurship, but I want to know that what kind of vision should we have during our corporate life, in which my basic perspective is we should understand the industry, spend some time in doing job, and then get into real life problem solving. So how will you guide, and what kind of vision should we have during our corporate life? Yeah.
I also want to call out on the girls in the room. I'm really happy to see that there are people interested in this. We are trying very hard to increase, for example, women in tech, and would love to hear anything you have to ask as well. I did have a backup plan of cold calling. So just because you don't volunteer doesn't mean you don't get to speak. Just because you're standing there for so long and you're right next to him, can I request you to share why you're here?
Good morning, sir. I'm here to gain the knowledge about the current scenarios and the perspectives what we are sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Vishal. I'm one of the faculty members here. I don't know how many faculty members are here from the institute. I want the speakers to address one question. How would you digitize these institutions like IITs? I mean, as a faculty member, I can tell you we are in desperate need of efficient processes. And I know this is a government institution. Challenges are very different. So if you can reflect on that, that will be nice.
Hello, sir. I'm in my third year, and so in the beginning, I was thinking that the knowledge that is given to us at IIT would be enough to make a new product. But at the undergraduate level, I don't think so that the knowledge that is given to us is enough, because you see that in every institute the knowledge is the same, the syllabus is the same. But so I think that if we want to make something that can revolutionize the world, we need to study deeper. So I think that for that we need to go for higher education like PhD or something. So what are your thoughts on that? But the thing is that I feel that after a PhD you get stuck into like the academic things, like you have to become a professor and all. You cannot start a business. So what are your views of doing business after doing PhD? Or should we do that, or should we make something at the undergraduate level only?
Okay, good. Yeah, we have two questions here. Thank you. This is great, by the way.
Good morning, sir. I am Yash Gupta. I am a second year undergrad at IIT Delhi. So Nathan was talking about bringing a startup or a enterprise for a tier 2, tier 3 city. What I had a question is that are these tier 2, tier 3 cities ready for a technology-based or digital-based startup? Because the tier 1 cities like Delhi, Mumbai, they have enough internet or smartphones so that these technology startups can cater to them. But rural areas, are they even ready for technology-based startups such as Swiggy, Paytm, or BharatPe?
Very good. Good question.
Yeah, good morning, sir. I am Garvit Dhoot. I am a first year undergraduate. So I don't have a question related to entrepreneurship or some stuff like that. But so currently when I entered IIT, I see the students like doing some stuff like entrepreneurship and coding and all stuff. But I am just like, I'm an exploring phase, and मेरे को अभी तक कुछ मिला नहीं कि मैं अभी क्या करूँ आगे.
Very good question.
तो आई एम जस्ट एक्सप्लोरिंग थिंग्स. तो अभी मेरे को मतलब ऐसा लग रहा है कि मेरे को कब मिलेगा, मैं क्या करूँ, और तो मैं प्रोसेस क्या है कि मेरे को कुछ मिल जाए कि लाइक आई गेट द कॉल कि ये मेरा थिंग है, आई हैव टू परस्यू दिस. सो व्हाट शुड आई डू नाउ?
Very good question. And I'll make it a little. So actually sitting is not fun. I'll do this. That's okay, right? Yeah. So we'll actually start with a skill led, because it came from 2-3 of you, and there's no right or wrong answer. I'm going to share my perspective. Ankur gonna top on that, put a cherry on the cake, if I'm able to produce a cake. So one is a lot of you. So we got a very diversified background. So some of you are in first year, second year. Some of you are very close to your job. So first is the skill. So knowledge of all, master of none is actually not a good case. Okay. So you have to figure it out that are you very good on the data side? Are you very good on the craft side, like technical side, API, full stack, big data? So first figure out a skill which you really, there is a sweet spot. I really like doing it. One is that, so that you should know. Second, surprisingly, what is not came out from all what you've said is the consumer. There is no market without a consumer, right? All of you, if you want to solve for any market, let's say India or Bharat, what consumer you are solving for? So what are you solving for? What is the problem statement? Any startup solved for a problem. What Swiggy has done? Swiggy has solved a problem which restaurants had. That restaurant can't serve beyond this area. Okay? So that's for the business. But what is our consumer problem? That I wanted to have chana bhatura from my favorite chana bhatura guy, which was not in my walkable distance. So they solved for two ends. They created a platform where restaurants can come and list and consumers can actually order. Initially, they made it free. Now they start making money from both the ends. So they take money from the restaurant and they take delivery charge from you. So they created a habit. What Ola has done or Uber has done. So if you look at it, they started with the problem. What Amazon is in any platform, Naukri, and you take any platform, they started with one core element. What is that? Convenience. So you figure it out one problem. Any big or small idea, it starts with the convenience. Figure out a consumer issue. What are you going to solve? And nothing starts big. Everything starts small. Amazon was online book delivery platform. Paytm was a mobile recharge platform. So understanding consumers, how you understand consumers, you say that I have not done this consumer behavior and this psychological thinking, and I'm only doing into, there are 5, 6, 7 streams here. So what is the key skill? The skill you need to add with the technical skill is the observation. You need to be a good observer. What is happening around you? India is a land of opportunity, so what is happening around you? Figure out that where the gaps are. So, can you book a taxi today online? Yes. Can you book a rickshaw? Can you book a e-rickshaw or a normal man-driven rickshaw? You can't. Do you think there is a market for it? There is a market for it. Now, when you see a market, can you penetrate that market and can you start making money through that? That requires understanding. Tech is not something which will change the game. Tech is an enabler. Okay. So one skill, so from the first question, which is a combination of 2, 3 things. So what you should do, what you should focus on. You should be focus on one core skill and become a good observer. Understand the consumer, because consumer is never in the room. And you are not that end consumer. Don't try and build it for yourself. Because you are only one persona, like one type of consumer. And your friends and family members are definitely not consumer, because you go to your mom, kaisa hu, patla hi lag raha hai, yaar, acha hi lag raha hai. Right? So that doesn't help. Unbiased thing.
Okay. So the little whispering we did was to try and break down what we heard into a few blocks. This first one around skill, we'll talk about process. We'll get to all the questions hopefully. And if you've asked a question and we missed your answer, please tell us. Otherwise, we'll assume we've answered your question. So let's talk about the skill block. Right? So there is a skill around a toolkit to build something with. It will not be the entire toolkit, but it will be an important part of the toolkit. You talked about that. There is another skill around identifying an opportunity, which has observing, identifying issues, and coming up with a solution. In the case of entrepreneurship, the solution requires a business model. But that skill of identifying a problem and coming up with a solution will help you no matter where, right? Whether you are starting a business, whether you are actually going into research, whether you are going into a job in a professional services firm, anywhere, right? That skill is really, really important. Some of you touched upon the theme that, hey, campus is not providing me everything I need. And, yes, that's true. It will not provide you everything you need. My two-part things will be cherish what you are getting here. A lot of people couldn't be here. Despite trying, despite being really gifted, it's just a game of luck as well as your skill and hard work and where you started from. So cherish what you're learning here. Don't dismiss what you're learning here. But based on what you hear in forums like this, no one's stopping you from learning more. It could either be on the tech side like blockchain, and I'll talk about it in a minute, or it could be on this idea of observing. Just remember, you've done all the entrance exams you needed to do, okay? You are not going for any more entrance exams. Yes, you should pass, preferably pass with good marks. And if you're looking for research, pass with really good marks. But please stop being a student at some point in terms of what drives you. Stop getting driven by grades. Unfortunately, even after 15 years of college, I still find colleagues who are still driven by, I have to come first in class, right? And comparing it to others, just sort of stop that part on what you could stop doing. I know there is a very strong theme of entrepreneurship and job creation, and I think we should continue that throughout. But remember that a lot of what we are saying is relevant even if that is not now, but sometime into the future, okay? Preferably not like me, who keeps thinking about next 5 years every year, but not starting. But so we leave that aside. But if you want to start at some point, you should just dive in. Remember, you will never be fully ready. You will not have all the skills, you'll not have the right team, you'll not have the right answers, you'll not have all the money you'll need, but you got to start, because without starting, you're not going to build, right? So yeah, on this part, remember that this is a high reward, high risk path, and the high risk comes from everything you need not being there. However, a passion to do it, irrational drive to do it has to be there. Okay, we talked about some names. These are all, pioneers of Indian entrepreneur journey, but there are also many who didn't reach that stage. For every successful company, there are 50 or 100, including our Allens here, who are in that game. But it's okay. Many of them are still happy because they tried. Many of them are still happy because they reach a certain scale. Maybe they're not an unicorn, but they're happy with what they're doing. So please don't judge yourself or your efforts by did you hit a unicorn, right? Just, if you're really driven by it, do it. Enjoy the ride. Know that the probabilistic outcome is not a unicorn. And if you still want to do it, please do it, because maybe there's something like those 1,000 jobs for every person in the room. I really like that call to action. And that's sort of the thing on entrepreneurship, I'll say, right? But the final piece is, in whatever you choose to do, right? Whether it is academia, whether it is a job, whether it is entrepreneurship, at some point in your journey, on one side, build on everything you've gained so far. And that's not just skills, that's your network, that's the friends you've made, that's the credibility you've established. And try to do something more than increase your bank balance. And what I mean, and you should do that as well, I have no problem with that. I'm not against it, I'm doing that. But what I mean by that is, unless you're trying to solve something which I would like to use this slightly fluffy thing of make the world a better place, okay, but I genuinely care about it, then you will find ways to do it which are not conventional, okay? I don't want to talk about McKinsey today, but I'll give you 2 examples only to bring this to life. One is we run something called Generation, which is the world's largest program for employment creation. None of us is an entrepreneur, okay? But by virtue of sitting where we sit, we've combined access to great industry people like Nitin and others, policymakers, and created a very simple model where people come in, someone's agreed to train them on a certain thing, and then link to jobs, right? I think there's about 100,000 people in India who's getting jobs through that. Okay, I am only in reflected glory, huh? Don't be confused, I have not done anything on that one. But the fact is that we recognize we have a unique position of knowing policymakers, knowing industry people, and knowing 20 markets more than any one organization would know, and just closing the loop between them, right? So if I really cared about creating jobs, I would think about it from my vantage point, what can I do, right? And similarly, for example, the second example is we started doing something for maternal and child health. Kushagra mentioned I spent 3-4 years working in public health at the grassroots. So I haven't been at McKinsey since 2004. I did start from here, but then I left and I was out for 5-6 years. but that passion for trying to solve something at the grassroots still remains. But where I am today, I've sort of trying to piece together a puzzle which can solve a real world problem. So entrepreneurship, you have to also define for yourself. I can share my business school's definition of entrepreneurship is to try and solve a problem for which you don't have the resources, but you will figure out a way to pull them together, right? It is not about a unicorn. It's about solving something for which you don't have the resources today, where you're going to pull it together to solve, right? Sorry for disconnected thoughts, but I'm hoping that through this conversation, we'll connect all the points you're raising, which to me is really about how will you make a difference and have a rewarding journey with a link to technology, right? So.
I think beautifully said. The second aspect, I think some of you talked about when to start. Should we go and do a job and start it after 3-4 years? What is the right time? Or should you do just now because you have nothing to lose? And I was again talking to a few students. I was telling them, the early the better. You are standing at zero, so there is no, there is no downside. It's only upside. And you are into cusp of digitization where every aspect or a segment needs digitization. So what is the right age? How many of you actually feel that starting early is beneficial? Just raise of hands so I know that many of you are not sleeping. Majority of you, like let's say 60%. And how many of you now feel, and there is no right or wrong, how many of you feel that getting 3-4 years of corporate experience or startup experience is actually helpful? There is a merit in both, right? So now, do you think that I can do justice to give a very black and white answer? Nobody can. Because actually, what is true, it's very personal to your journey. For some people, let's say you come from a business family and you have resources. And at times, we feel the resources is money. If you have $1 million today, you come from a wealthy background, do you think you can do a successful startup? May or may not. You get an experience and you have $1 million. Do you think you can do a successful startup? Is there a guarantee that startup will be successful? May not, right? So all the combination you put together, there is no set formula. So how can we make it work? Start early right now. Let's decline all the job offers and everybody should start some startup, call themselves a fancy CEO, an entrepreneur, and have that LinkedIn fame. Or you go and work for McKinsey, PwC, EY, all the big boys, or somebody who's got a startup mindset like Adani or Tata's or Reliance or these. So what is the right bet? I'm actually asking you on the contradictory. So there is no right bet. If you are a risk taker and you don't need to actually take care of the basic necessities of your family, दाल रोटी की टेंशन नहीं है, then you actually can start early. Trust me, you can start early, but you need to have a combination of, so other side of the coin is you figured out what problem you are going to solve. So in this process, in this prestigious institution, with the ecosystem you have, in your education, try and figure out what problem you are planning to solve. And get like-minded people, because it's about the team. It's not a lone journey. You can't be a lone warrior. So if you know that there is a big enough or a good enough problem to solve, You got right folks as a team with complementary skills, not like three best friends all good at technology saying startup kar lete hain. It will not work because you will fail. You don't have complementary skills. If you have complementary skills, you know what problem to solve for, and you have 1.5 years of a run, the burn, you can start. Because like he said, there is no perfect stage or a formula or a time. Though not everybody is an entrepreneur, not everybody will become a CEO. And startups requires leaders. Like me and him, we are entrepreneurs. थोड़ा सा डर लगता है, but we want a bigger canvas to paint. So I call myself as an entrepreneur. We have the very thin line. And nobody is saying that in job you can't make money and in startup you will end up a millionaire. So it can't be a end goal driven like I want money and that's why I want to do a startup. Don't do for money. Don't do for exit. Don't do a startup just because you want to sell that startup and retire in Goa or US on a beach house. Don't do it for this reason. Because वो नहीं होगा. If you're doing it for that reason, may happen, but बहुत corner case होता है. Try and figure out what you're good at, what you really like, what you want to do for next 50 years, even if you don't get paid. Try and figure that thing out. If it's technology, do something around technology. But if you figure out the technology and consumer gap and align it with a business, it's a perfect recipe. So you going to a corporate or a startup in the space where you wanted to solve. So choose your path very wisely, not because somebody is a high blue chip company and you're getting paid nicely. Even if you're getting paid less, but you're getting into a startup which will help you have a booster journey, do that. So if you can get into a startup, learn the startup ecosystem, figure it out the hustle, wear multiple hats, work harder than a lot of other people. Don't get into your job with a 9-to-5 mindset and get that flavor. Figure out that is the level of heat you are willing to take for next 20, 30, 40 years. Get into startup because startups are not hunky-dory. Startups are not red tape carpets. It's a tough job. He said, one successful startup, there are 100 which are not talked about. So are you okay failing? Can you let the social pressure go away from your mind? कि भाई क्या सोचेगा, वो अंकल क्या सोचेंगे, मेरा फ्रेंड का जॉब लग गया, वो सेटल हो गया. अगर वो प्रेशर है तो स्टार्टअप मत करना. Because you can't run a marathon with a baggage. So what time to start? Early is better if you have the resources. Otherwise, there's always some initial training. And I love cricket. Before you play for India, you have to play Ranji, right? So practice. So initial 2-3 years, if you go learn and also add that discipline, right? In corporates, you add that discipline. Even in startups, you get that. So it's always good. And not everybody will end up becoming a CEO, and that's perfectly okay. Because in startups, or if you start early, personal, professional life, kuch nahi hota. There is no balance. I mean, people who have organized this event, imagine this event for 300 folks. Some of you have not slept for days. Imagine doing a startup, figuring out all unknowns, so many moving parts, competition, market changing, policy coming, COVID happening. So many startups got shut down. It was not your fault. Got a good technology, good market, band ho gaya dhanda. So do you have the risk appetite? Are you willing to embrace the failure? So these are the traits, right? Are you hungry enough, fire in the belly? Can do it for next 10 years, even if you don't make a lot of money. But if you're good at it, you're solving for the right market, I'm telling you, money is a byproduct, money will come. So people who have the right team, figure out what problem they are solving, so what you are solving, for whom you are solving, and how you are solving, and how you're going to make money out of it. And detail. It's maybe a 500 bullet point tracker with each and every answer in place. With some uncertainty, because, and start nimble. Then you're a startup person. Or you go, get trained. Corporate training, startup training is always better. And then maybe after few years you go for it. Doing a PhD, what you were asking, will that make sense, or will that make you only academic? There's no rule. There are PhD, people who are like use doctors and fantastic. There are people like me who have not done anything and done good. There are dropouts who have created unicorns in the ecosystem. There's a large part of luck and large part of risk-taking appetite. It's basically people who give up. And 80%, 90% people generally give up early. Initial trouble, jittery journey, they give up. So you need to be committed to the idea. If you're committed, it will happen. So nothing on the timing, you will decide. So I can't answer for you and he can't answer for you. You need to decide. And you have all the ecosystem. We never had mentors in our time. Yeah, we never had VCs. We never had a lot of these angels, big corporates having incubation programs. You got an incubation program here. Every time some of the industry experts come and talk to you. If you're good at something, you're good at technology, you can good at big data, you have a solid. I know it's 3-4 things I've talked about, but not all of you will become entrepreneurs or CEOs, and you should not. But not all of you should actually go blanket and say कि चुपचाप job करेंगे, because that's the safest way. Don't pick the safe way. That's my early submission. Sitting at my age, because beyond a point, you can't do much with a lot of money. People say retire ho jayega. Nobody. It's not fun to retire. Trust me.
Actually, agree. That's very well put. And I had something similar to say, which is, as long as there's a desire to solve a problem which is currently unsolved, you keep assessing how the resources have come together. Sometimes the technology isn't there. Sometimes resources in terms of money aren't there. Sometimes the team isn't there. But if you stick to a theme and say, I'm going to solve this on some point of time, things will come together. And if you have that thing to bring it together, it will happen. But remember to never discredit what you have. You may start at an institution like this, which I find hard to discredit, but let's say you're unhappy with everything you get here, still find what you can like. You'll do a job maybe in the industry, and you'll be like, oh, I'm not even coding. What am I going to do? But you're learning so much. I'm going to talk a little bit about the other type of opportunities besides the consumer side in a minute. Just look around. If I had to add one skill, actually, now that I think about it, is I don't know if it's a skill or a practice, is awareness. Awareness of what's going on around you, what sort of is frustrating people, what's holding back growth in something, and awareness of why you are trying to do something. If you want to do something to solve a problem, make money, it's fine, as long as you're honest about it. If you're trying to do something because someone else did something, you may want to at least be aware and ask if that's the best motivation. Okay, so awareness I'll add to the previous category. Well, let's talk about this from a technology perspective, and I'm going to come in, because you're in the room, I'm going to give a shout out to Graphite folks here, Graphite GTC folks here. A lot of what you see in the media, which I assume is what influences you, is the category of startups around the consumer side. Okay? In India, we still are very weak on people who've created successful organizations or businesses on behind the scenes stuff, especially in tech. Okay, if you actually look at number of successful ventures, you'll find a significant share, especially in the Valley area, actually are things that you never see, because they basically are around how technology components talk to each other, sensors and flow stuff, things you don't see, things that will not get featured in the front page of a big newspaper because, well, they don't advertise in that newspaper, let's be honest, right? So there was a question on, if I go for a PhD, does that, quote unquote, I'm going to exaggerate, disqualify? Anybody heard of Larry and Sergey? Anybody heard of Google, now Alphabet? Okay, they founded. How many of you know they were PhD students? Actually PhDs in their field, right? So there is nothing that will qualify you, nothing that will disqualify you. Okay, let me ask another fun question. If you were to look at all successful startups and look at their founders, at what age they started startups, and let's cut it at some age, let's say 35 or 40. And you have group A, which is success rate if you were below that age threshold of 35, 40, and B is success rate of those which is above 35, 40. Show of hands for the younger people have a higher success rate. Show of hands for you believe that the older people had a higher success rate. Slightly lower. Statistically, the latter group, the older group, have had more successful businesses. Okay? Now, it's not that, it's really about, I think, when I looked at it, I was surprised because my initial impression was, of course, the younger people would have taken more interesting risks. They are closer to new technology areas. Nobody in any of my industry conversations has asked me about blockchain like Pankaj did today, right? So I assume, but the reality is there are so many things that go into making a successful business that if you are aware and you're putting that jigsaw together, you're more likely to be successful with more time. But it's also true that things are dependent on technology waves and money waves, and the study looked at it at a point of time. Maybe 10 years from now when the study is done, maybe the stats will change. So let's not get carried over by that. Let's remember that it was at a point in time. So now let's come to tech. I'll give, this time I'll speak a little longer. I'm sorry. And you should just ask. Nitin, raw material at this rate. The highest paid amongst the engineers in a steel plant. If you run a steel company, you probably have scores of such furnaces, probably scores of such engineers. Not all of them are good enough in the same way. Some will be better, some will be worse with experience otherwise. We built an analytics model which basically takes all that instrumentation that exists. We did a video feed of that window, and we basically could get to as good as the best of their network. Now, we didn't beat the best person, but the point is, out of, let's say, 50 engineers, the average performance of this model solution, or like data-driven solution, was at par with the best. So imagine what happened to the average performance of the blast furnaces, right? There were many challenges to implement this. There were many behavior-related challenges. So stuff you were talking about human nature becomes very real. Because suddenly those people are like, oh, what will happen to my job if I make this solution successful? So you have to solve all of that in the right way. You have to protect them. You have to, you can't take a short-sighted view of you're not needed. Because now you say, okay, together, how do we solve the next big problem? So you do that stuff, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the limitations we faced, for example, on in situ computation. So these models, to do well, had latency, because you had to get the data onto the local network, get it onto a computational engine, then have the output relayed back, and some of the decisions we still can't optimize because the latency in the network is too much. Okay, unsolved problem that limits further value creation. Okay. Another one I'll give you is from renewable power. Okay, worked with a fleet of wind and solar plants. Solve very interesting problems, right? One of them was they follow a calendar system for cleaning. So every 10th day, this team goes in a little vehicle, picks the next panel in the queue and goes, cleans the panel and comes back. Now, most of these plants in India are near deserts or dry areas at least. Wind doesn't follow a calendar. Sometimes it flows for a few days at a stretch. Sometimes it doesn't blow at all. So you've got dirty panels lying there. And there are some days when all the panels are clean because it rained, but you still go in the trolley in the morning and you go clean those panels. Because that's my job, right? We've created a system that is able to estimate how dirty a panel is because of the decay in the signal from that panel, and then change from this calendar-based cleaning system to a asynchronous signal-based cleaning system. Right? Again, this is not very good. We've certainly had significant improvement over baseline, but we are still far from how good it could be. Why? Because in this case, the instrumentation for sensors at the plant is a problem. It's a business problem plus a tech problem. Business problem because the way the bundles are sold today, you have to decide sensors at the very start. If you're going to put sensors later on, it's very expensive. Some of it is just tech, some of it is business, right? But if that can be solved, you get a significant improvement, okay? I've given you 2 examples. I can go on. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you are someone who works in the industry, right? And by the way, there are lots of examples from chemical engineering. My friend Vishal here works in physics, and a lot of examples on the sort of technology side, which if you're just in that space as an engineer, not as a data scientist, not as a technologist, you're just looking at it and saying, it could be better if we solve this tech problem, right? There is humongous value to be created. I think I'm trying to recall if it's IIT Delhi or another engineering institution. They've come up with digital flow meters, which actually are designed to connect to a data lake very smoothly. The digital flow meter is not a new thing, but they've designed it to say now people are using the data. Earlier, digital flow meter was I have to generate data. It's your problem to connect it to the network. These people have solved the problem to say it should actually be so easy to connect. It's almost plug and play in your system. And I worked in chemical plants, and I know that my ability to create impact is limited by flow meters in the system. And I love this thing because now suddenly in existing systems, we just plug and play this thing and it develops like significant improvement on the solution. So it's okay if you are hardcore tech person, for whatever reason. You might already be 5 years into this. You actually love your engineering work and you're doing it. Just know that the idea of finding opportunity and creating a solution is not limited to the consumer businesses. They have shown the way. They have brought in the investor money. They have brought in talent. But it's not the only space. There is enough. So if you are on a certain path, opportunities are all around you. Okay, you just have to be aware and see, right? And then say, how can I solve this? And be with that question in your mind. And you may solve it within your current organization and be someone who created impact like that, or you could do it outside with your own venture and you could create impact like this. Just be committed to solving the problem. If it's amenable for an entrepreneurial journey and there'll be a big payout for you, great. But as Nitin rightly said, don't make that the objective function. Just discover the joy of solving a problem It can be as a student, it can be as an engineer, it can be as someone who's doing this. And the reason I'll close with Graphite GTC is I love what you guys are doing. I learned about it today. I work with, as I said, engineers, accounting, bank people, consumer, brand managers, and our ability to create financial impact today in the industry is limited by good data scientists who can take industry knowledge, coding knowledge, maths knowledge, and create something that could improve performance. And I think no code going forward is going to be really, really valuable. And you're innovating in that space. Wish you all the luck. And it will contribute to this world going forward. And this is not order food faster, get a cab, book a ticket. But this is an important problem you're trying to solve. So all power to you.
So guys, let's do a 10-second shock exercise. I want all of you to stand up. I spotted 2 people sleeping. Okay. Awesome. Maybe shake a little. How you feel? All good? Still present? Huh? How's the Josh? Light? काफी ज्ञान हो गया, huh? अच्छा. Let's. No, please sit. Who said stand up? Oh, come on, crazy guys.
I'm reminded of my days as a student. I've attended several talks in this hall to sleep at the back because there was no AC in the hostel and power was out. So those of you who are being entrepreneurial by showing up here to sleep comfortably, you know, my heart's with you. Don't worry.
I just checked. मेरा moderator तो नहीं सो गया. We said तेरे को question पूछने हैं, वो सो गया. Okay. Let me tell you how digital transformation has been seen and spotted in the industry with a very interesting consumer perspective. And we'll do raise of hands. And take an Adani example because I need to sell the story. Huh? How many of you feel and know that Adani is one of the largest B2B cognates in the India? B2B, yeah, raise of hands. Business to business. We are into coal, we are into mining, solar, EV, lot of stuff. How many of you know that, or even aware that we serve close to 450 to 500 million end consumers in India? Any idea? Anybody? So Adani Group is one of the largest airport operator in India. We operate 7 airports. 83 million consumers walk into our airports. So if you're flying from Mumbai to Ahmedabad, how many flight options you have? How many flight options, so how many airline options you have in India? 5-6 hain, right? You have Indigo, you have Jet Airways, you have Vistara, you have Spice, you have Go, you have New One, Akasa, Air India. Huh? So if you are taking a decision of flying, you'll go to either website or OTA like MM-Tree or Yatra or ClearTrip and choose a flight basis the price. Do you have a choice in choosing your airport if you're flying from Mumbai to Ahmedabad? How many airports? So primarily one airport or maybe 2 terminals, right? So 83 million consumers fly from our airports, with Navi Mumbai coming in 140 million yearly. Have we done any digital? So, and it's a new business. So if you look at digitization, there is hardly any digitization. Now, people in technology and data and all of you, imagine that what you can do if you have a captive audience for 1.5 hours on an average in your ecosystem. So after you do a security check and you enter, everything you do, all the touch points, there is tremendous amount of digitization can happen. And so far, nobody has ever imagined that Adani is a B2C company. I'll take another extreme example. Fortune Oils. Fortune, the rice, the cooking oil. Every fifth Indian consume that oil. We have 20% market share. Now as a group, do we have the data of the consumer? Have you ever dealt with FMCG, real estate, electricity, gas? There is 450 to 500 million consumers we serve currently. And that is the actually active, penetrated internet population in India. Hardly any digitization. So when Mr. Adani has actually thought about establishing ADL a year back, Adani Digital Labs, and I'm the founding leader for that, I as an entrepreneur have felt the need, he as a businessman realized the potential, and we formed this team. Right? So at times, why I'm sharing this with you? Because at times it's about the perspective, it's about the timing and the opportunity. There is only a limited window for the digitization. Now most of you have used Hotmail, Yahoo, some of the first maybe, the first leg, not the, you are aware about Hotmail? Huh? Yahoo you know? How many of you have Hotmail or a Yahoo ID as a primary ID, email ID right now? 0. Anybody who used Orkut ever? Right? But these, it doesn't matter, right? They were there. But what they were missing? I'm going to bring a very interesting element in. They had the largest market share. But what they missed? They couldn't change. They didn't change with time. They didn't evolve. So something which is working today may not work tomorrow. We all used Kali Pili taxi at airports. Now we use Meru, Uber, Ola, some of other ones. Why? What has changed? Convenience. What else changed? Price. Price to whom? Transparency. Right? Price to consumer. So, 2-3 very interesting elements of digitization is convenience, customer empowerment, right? So you know where the cab is, you know the search pricing. There are no surprises at last moment. And these startups and new age companies are actually changing. Do you know Patanjali has a B2C direct D2C, direct to customer channel platform? COVID has established it, right? Most of the new age brands are D2C brands. If you look at Mamaearth, any Mamaearth consumers here? One maybe at back. So what is changing in this era? So it's not a big boys game anymore. And even if you have a largest market share, you need to change with time. If you don't change and evolve, somebody else gonna come in and disrupt the industry. Change is the only constant. You know, right? If you look at FB's DAUs, that's falling. If you just, even calculate how many hours you used to spend on that platform and today, is declining. I know you are Twitter generation, more like Instagram generation, and you know right what is happening to Twitter right now. Very interesting times ahead. So how you need to look at things? You need to be hardcore optimistic. Figure out the change. Now, any one of you here working on Web3 or a blockchain technology as of today? How many of you are interested in Web3 and blockchain? Okay, maybe 10-15%. How many of you have made money in crypto? तो तुम्हें जॉब की जरूरत क्या है यार? So when the Web3 will happen and you are not working, and it's happening right now, right? Metaverse, Web3 is happening right now. Okay? Somebody is innovating, somebody is trying to create something new. And यहाँ पे नहीं हो रहा है. That's where we miss the bus, or a rocket ship for that matter. So always spot when there are change, and if you are becoming a change agent, that's the best thing you can do to yourself. And it's not so much about which technology stack you learn, it's more on the process. So what you should hold on to? Hold on to right timing and insights. Hold on to the right process and figuring out that sweet spot when it's happening. And of course, learning appetite. You have to continuously learn. And it's not only here, even on the, whether it's on the job or on the field. Because some of you, so when I actually came, I felt that you guys would be people who know कि यार क्या करना है, कैसे करना है. And I'm not the only confused one. And you guys are the future of India. And one also very interesting thing about digitization, right? When you do it, market is always outside, not in labs and offices and fancy rooms. You have to go closer to the consumer. And I keep bringing consumer back because it's very important to stick to that person. That consumer pays your salary, my salary, board salary, shareholder salary. So always go out and market validate. If you're failing, fail early. If something is working out, you know that out of 5 things, what is working out, so you can focus on that thing more. And digitization is actually helping. You know that COVID has expedited. Which are the 2-3 events which expedited digitization in India? Demonetization was one, right? Clearly, Paytm, if you look at the wallet share and that market cap, boomed. Paytm got our Prime Minister photo used in the advertising, and they were all out on the first day. We all were standing in the queues. What changed? So somebody was asked कि वहाँ पे infrastructure नहीं है tier 2, tier 3 में, right? Somebody asked this. But यार, mobile phones is the new smartphone, right? That's everybody's got it. सबके पास है. India doesn't have a money problem anymore. We have the cheapest data in the world. Cheapest data. We don't even talk to each other. We just talk on WhatsApp these days, next to each other. ये फालतू ज्ञान दे रहा है, छोड़ दे. So ecosystem is created. People are there. Now you need to figure it out that where is that consumer? वो tier 2, tier 3 वाला consumer क्या यूज़ कर रहा है? व्हाट्सएप तो यूज़ कर रहा है अपना अभी कोविड वाला जो वैक्सीन है वो तो सब उस पर हुआ है, राइट? वी ऑल गॉट जैब्ड, राइट? आपने क्या यूज़ किया when we were all locked out? So what have you used? You used digital platforms for grocery. You used digital platforms for almost everything. Imagine in next 2-3 years, maybe 4 years, we will have a similar conversation, and some of you are sitting in, maybe Goa, maybe some in Valley, some in Australia, some in comfortable home, having the same experience. That is what the next set of digitization opportunities or assets will take you through. You guys are very, very lucky. This is a fantastic time. You wanna hit me?
Very well said. I enjoyed talking to Nitin. I'm going to follow you on all your talks and I'm going to show up. But I'm going to do my final couple of minutes now. I know we've run over. Thank you for still being around. I'm going to answer a few questions and I'm going to ask you one question. Okay. The question, I just went back to my notes. I was looking at things that we had here. Nitin's covered several of them. There was a question, there was one around, yeah, we want to create jobs and not seek jobs, but how do we do it? I think we've touched upon it a lot. That essentially, if you care about solving a problem, you equip yourself, stick to that desire for the reasons that you will really enjoy it, not to be the next person touted as the unicorn founder. You will get to it. Just stay with that question and you will find an answer. The answer may come through opening, the next big consumer business, which will employ another 100,000 people, or in a very different format. I gave you the example of generation. It doesn't matter how you solve it, but you will solve it. Stay with it. There was a question about biology. Came from you, right? There. Yes. So it's just ripe for innovation. CRISPR. How many of you know about CRISPR? Has anybody tried their hands at CRISPR? So there you are. How many of you believe it's a powerful tool? So you now got something very powerful, which is not easy to use. That's it. That's an opportunity. If you will not be the only one who can think about the next delivery platform, but you are in a very small group of people who can innovate on biotech if you are a biotech graduate from here. But if you care enough about, so A, you have to care enough about solving a new problem in your space. B, aware that this is going to be a big shift, just like blockchain or something else. There are several of these going on. Just put those pieces together and say, okay, now how do I solve this problem? By the way, it will not be taught here because it's not been solved. It's not going to be taught in your job because it's not been solved. But you can experience it here. You can experience it in a job. You can experience it without either of them. If you are like, this I want to solve, right? That this I want to solve is what you need, right? Similarly, there was something about blockchain. You said enough. It's again very interesting because it's so new. It has a lot of potential, though most people haven't figured out why. And it's very inefficient in a way of, let's just say, energy cost or compute cost right now. But if you believe it's going to change something dramatically, stay close to it, right? And by the way, putting your money in it, to me, doesn't qualify as stay close to it for this audience. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to write something. You got to build an application. You got to create the ugliest NFT and put it out there. It's fine. But you cannot be engaging with it only at the level of buy and sell, which is fine, by the way. I don't have a problem with it. But then that doesn't qualify for equipping you with being an innovator in that space, right? It's not going to be part of the curriculum anytime soon, I guess. But you don't need it to be, right? I think it's a big space as well. It's another big wave like CRISPR. And if you can figure out a way to be in that space meaningfully, do it. Right? There was a question around acceleration from this student life to someone who creates jobs. Again, I think we did touch upon it in many different ways, so I won't repeat. But the one thing I will underscore again is learn to appreciate what you're getting here, both in terms of the knowledge, but also the network within your batch, network with people who come here with so much joy, people who come all the way, give you money to be part of this. Just please appreciate and leverage that network. Someone said how B.Tech knowledge is not enough. Yeah, but I think as long as you remember what we said, nothing will be enough to start. How many of you know this thing called entrepreneur in residence at VC funds? Yeah? So basically these are VC funds pay good salary to people of certain experience and background to be in the midst of startups till they find their new idea. Right? Not all of them go on to create a successful business. So here you have money, you have VCs calling you, you've got access to every type of talent, and you still may not come up with one. So if you're looking for a checklist of everything coming together, it will not work. Remember that definition. You want to solve a problem where you don't have all the resources and you got to figure out how to put them together. So it will never have everything in place. And that's the nature of this thing. Readiness in tier 2, tier 3. People are the same, they want the same comforts. Everybody is the same, no matter where you sit. And if there is a gap, there is your opportunity. Go solve it, right? With what is available. It will never be perfect in the first go, and that's fine. The last one is my friend who asked about digitizing academia. I think it's a very hard one. It's a very hard one. The fun thing is it started with MIT's OpenCourseWare, it started with Coursera. It's already happening. And if any of you are interested in theories, go read about Clayton Christensen and his idea of disruptive innovation. Institutions like this are getting disrupted. To the extent you care, try and be part of the solution. There's something very special. And maybe, 20 years from now, we'll look back and say, wow, good riddance with all that brick and mortar universities. I don't know. But I feel just the way coming out of COVID, we figured that only Zoom doesn't work and no Zoom doesn't work and we need a hybrid. I feel we'll also come out on the other side and say, only Coursera doesn't or only OCW doesn't work. And we need this kind of place where people come together and mingle in an unstructured manner and learn. So I will just say, I don't know an answer, my friend. But I'm just hoping some of you will figure it out because I think it's worth solving for. Yeah. This was my answers. Sorry if I still forgot. I tried to make note of all of them. I'm going to ask one question. I'm going to stop with that. How many of you, please raise your hand if you engaged in any form of genuine creative work. You painted something, you came up with a script for a skit, you anything unstructured creativity. I want to see a set of hands. I'm very happy to see at least these many hands. We talked about in our first round, Nitin laid out how you need to put together an opportunity and a solution as a skill you will not learn in college. In the second round, we talked about awareness of what's going on in order to put that opportunity together. In the last round, you talked about being out there with the consumer, whoever's your consumer. Your consumer could be customers booking flights. Your consumers could be industry using a flow meter. Be with them. I believe the secret sauce is imagination with all of that. And please don't discount. I must say I hate it that our JEE system requires you to focus 24 hours a day on trying to clear an exam in a certain time limit, and all of that good stuff about arts and drams and theater and reading just sort of is forgotten in those 2 to 3 years, right? If you got any element of it left, water it like a plant, bring it to life, you will have a better life. You'll be much more likely to be successful as a professional. I'm going to stop with that. And Nitin, maybe you should talk about your Master of Fine Arts as one of your closing comments.
Just 2-3 quick points, and then I will.
Just an interruption. We are.
I know. Just 2-3 quick points for. I'll take 2 minutes, and then I will walk away from lunch and you. So one, he talked about creators economy. That's where we are heading to. The second, some of the new age Indian successful startup or digital first companies you should definitely study about if you want to gain more on how business model has been built with consumer needs, gaps, and good profitability. Zerodha, Freshdesk, Zoho, Naukri, Bharti Airtel. Study about these 5. You will love it, how they've actually transformed their own matured industries. They started as typical startups. They are now big and they are still changing. That will actually, and everything is available on internet. You will know how Bharti Airtel has become from telecom to data company and data to now digital company. How Naukri has become from a job posting thing to now a platform and enabling the gaps, and these are high job creators platforms. The last one is whatever we said, this is absolutely very personal to both of our experiences. Your experiences will be very different. You have the whole age and that timing where you can make mistakes. So use it. Don't let that go away, because that's your biggest asset. If you play video games, it's like Mario. You have that thing, and there's no downside. And I'm ending on that. Thank you very much.
So firstly, thanks a lot, sir, for being with us this morning. I know you are very super busy guys, but still you made time for us. So thanks a lot for that. And I hope everybody learned at least something from this session. It was definitely very enriching for us. And to formally end the session, I like to invite our chairperson of TRISH, Professor Sujin sir, and vice chairperson of TRISH, Ashok Gupta sir, to please come on stage and present memento from our side as an acknowledgement of their guidance.
The only one dressed for I don't know what occasion. Sorry to have run over, but thank you. Clearly, at least you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Also, final thanks for the audience as well to come here at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning. So thanks a lot for everyone for attending, and with this we end the session. Thanks a lot.
But the password for the code for the closing ceremony. So you can stay seated here for that.